I got quiet quick. Wow. So welcome to, I think, what is the last session of the day. Thanks for coming out. I really appreciate it. My name is Dan Kasun. I am the Senior Manager of Technology Partners for Public Sector. And that really means that my team is responsible for working with organizations who are building software, building solutions for public sector customers, whether it's government or education or nonprofits, et cetera. And our job is to help you get enabled. And really, when we think about partners from an AWS perspective, it's all about helping you build your businesses, helping you get to market, helping you win business. And we like to think that we do a good job, because that's what we're supposed to do. But there are some things that we've seen and that I've observed. I've been here almost 4 years now, and we have people on our panel who've been here a lot longer, that some partners have done really well, and we've seen things that partners, they've stubbed their toes, and we try to learn from those. That's really the intent of today's session, is to go through, talk about some of those best practices we've seen. To help you get a better perspective on what potholes should you look out for, or if something has worked really well in the past for somebody else, what you can take advantage of. So if you were here for the hyper-threading Kubernetes Docker session, that's not this. Thinking next door, but I can go into that if you like. With me, I have a distinguished panel of people who I trust immensely. And it's actually a pretty diverse set of folks here. And I'll allow them to introduce themselves, but let me just do by name first, and then we'll go one by one. So Nathan McGirt, who's Senior Manager of Solution Architecture for the partner organization. Jane Lacey, who's Senior Manager of Developing Partners for Public Sector. Brett McMillen, who's Senior Manager for Federal Sales at AWS. So let's start with you, Nathan. Want to give a little background of yourself, and then we'll...
Sure. So what I do today, I lead a team of solution architects, right, that works primarily with our public sector partners, consulting partners, technology partners, the whole bunch. My background was, before I was leading the team, I was a solution architect, and like a lot of our solution architects, I came out of the field, right, doing data center ops and virtualization and consulting and helping do some of the early migrations into cloud with defense. So I kind of came from that world and got involved in AWS in the very early days. I can tell my graybeard tales about before there was VPC and before there was EBS, but that's what led me here. So.
Good afternoon. I have a team of folks who develop partners. What does it mean to develop? Because sometimes you come in and I just signed up, how do I make money? Well, there's some development phase that needs to go on there. So a whole group of people on my team work with folks who have been doing business and are trusted advisors of the government, but may not be so up to speed on the AWS technology. We teach that. Or maybe it's a partner that has been very successful in the commercial world, selling and creating solutions on Amazon Web Services, but they've never done business with government. They don't know the contractual pathways, how to do procurements. My team teaches that expertise as well. For the most part, I'm in the US, working with partners, hopefully like yourselves in the audience. I think we're going to do a poll of that in a second. I touch outside of the boundaries of the US every now and then. I take care of technology companies, consulting partners, all walks of life within the public sector, federal, state, local, education, nonprofits, et cetera. So I'm really interested in talking to the audience today about where you are in your journey of development and helping you to succeed in this great place we got in public sector. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Jane. I'm Brett McMillen. I run the federal sales organization for the federal civilian business. I've been doing this for about 7 years. 7 years ago, we had almost no partners. In fact, we had no partners, and we also had almost no revenues back then. And so it became obvious to me, as well as the other people that I was working with at the time, that we just couldn't serve our customers, and we could not scale unless we built a rich partner ecosystem. And so from that, we started to get some initial partners and growing from that. And today, we've got a wide range of partners that are selling to the federal government, resellers, systems integrator, technology partners, ISVs. And so what happens today now is my team is working directly with the agencies of the federal government, helping them set things up to get ready to go into the cloud, and we work with them on what that cloud journey would be. And then they end up doing these procurements, and what we like to do is work with these partners as these procurements are being developed so that we can help match up partners in the government so that they get the very best solutions. And today, it's really nice because this wide range of the partner ecosystem is integrated into both what the government does as well as my team as we're working together with each one of the government agencies.
Yep. Thanks, Brian. Actually, I probably want to start with you on this. And incidentally, it'll be somewhat interactive if you want. We'll leave some time at the end for Q&A. Hopefully, we'll see how it goes. We have until like 7, 8 o'clock, so I'm sure you guys don't mind. Right, so given you coming from the sales perspective, and you've had really good exposure to what customers have been looking for, what do you think our customers are really value or looking for in partners that engage with them in your space? Yeah. What's important to them?
And so there's a variety of answers to that depending on where the customer is. There are some customers that we have in the federal space that send their own people to be AWS certified and do that. That's a small percent of what's out there. And for them, they're looking for these resellers, these groups that can provide them a bill, manage that, give them a contract vehicle. But most of them, they're looking for a partner that has the competencies to help them through this entire journey. How do I set up, not just how do I set up an individual program to run on AWS, but how do I do this enterprise-wide? So some of the things we look for, Jane's group does a great job of this, is the partner having the basic competencies to do that, sending the right people to the skills, having the right engineers, having the people not only being able to talk from a technology side, but also from a process side and a business side. And then lastly, what we really are looking for is a partner that can work with our team to help the government with their missions. And so my team's very focused on getting the government to do things for the people. In fact, we like to say that what my team does is we help the government help the people. And so we're looking for these partners that can go down that journey with us and help the government help the people.
Any other thoughts from anybody in terms of?
I'm going to bank on to the technical piece of it's a no-brainer, right? But it's just like your high school education. You can still manage to graduate high school and still not know how to read and write, right? Unfortunately. Well, you can go get all the certifications, but still not know how to architect a well-optimized AWS-powered solution. Or you may be able to architect it on paper, but do you know how to execute on that architecture? And then support it. That could be 3 different partners. And depending on how the procurement is let, or again, the mission of the customer, how that gets articulated, it could be, you and you alone. So again, we'll talk more about this development thing, but one other point that I wanted to touch on, it's the business side of the house. It's the change management. Not only do Brett's customers need the technology to be successful in their missions, this is a new disruptive technology. The change management must also occur. The governance has got to change. It's got to be tweaked in order for the mission to be successful. Otherwise, it's just putting a different color on the problem. So all these things need to be discussed.
And that's a good lead into the next question, and that's, okay, let's suppose I'm an organization that's done consulting for a while or built product in a premises-based environment. I hear about this cloud thing. I want to jump on the bandwagon. What are some of the challenges that you've seen an organization have shifting from being kind of a legacy type partner into a really, really good cloud partner?
From my perspective, when I get a legacy partner, they assume that because in a hardware environment per se, right? They went to school, they went to the one class that they had to in order to get the logo. They hang out the shingle. Now they go sell it, somebody else attaches that service agreement, and they move on to the next one. They've taken the purchase order, as soon as it ships, it's done. This is not a one and done sale, this is a very technological sale. And again, going back to the change management, it's how you pay your people, because it's a utility based. Even though we still do fixed price, in a lot of our federal government customers still, we're the utility piece of that. So you're not going to be successful just hanging out your shingle. We've got to do the change management within your organization, which starts at the top, and mandating it down so that the folks completely understand the new model, and weaving that into your current business. It certainly can be done with your current portfolio of legacy, but you got to have the skill set and the mindset and the change in your processes and procedures to be able to really meet your customers' needs in this utility model.
Yeah, and I'll comment from a technology partner, ISV partner too. It is, even the technical, and Nathan, you might be able to speak about this when we talk about what it takes to get technically enabled. Technically, getting a solution to the cloud isn't necessarily so hard compared to the business challenges that I've seen a lot of the ISVs I work with. I have an annual license that people spend, and they renew every year, or it's a perpetual license. And now all of a sudden my customers are asking me for utility billing. I don't even know what that is. And if I do go to that, it changes my compensation model, and I have to change my architecture, and I have to change, like Jane said, how I sell people. So the business planning up front in determining the organizational impact is as significant an issue as getting technically capable, and particularly in the ISV space, because that's what customers want. Going back to the first question, they don't necessarily just want me to take what's running on premises and put it in cloud and say I'm done, I'm cloud enabled. They want a cloud solution. They want utility-based billing and abstracted out, SaaS-based if they can get it, and voila, they're happy. And they won't be pleased until they get there. They're happy to take the migration. So that kind of begs the question for Nathan, is what about technical enablement? And there's two sides of the question. Is what challenges have you seen organizations go in taking people and either getting technically competent, or on the other side, what have you seen organizations do well and build that technical competency quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of things that I've seen not work well. I think one of them is, especially with it is broad and deep as our platform has gotten, companies that try to get started by trying to eat the entire platform with their technical staff, who try to train their technical staff to be experts in everything all at once. It's every day that goes by, it gets harder to do that because the platform gets bigger. It's for the folks on my team, it's their full-time job, and it's hard to keep up with. We dedicate about 20% of their time just to trying to stay sharp on our products and services so that they can keep the relevant skills they need. What I normally advise, especially for partners that are more of a consulting flavor, is really, this sounds simple, but try to work backwards from what your customer needs, because it's all about your teams having the ability to execute. And that's true of the technology partners as well. Look deeply at your customers' needs, look deeply at where you can start in that market, look at the skills you're going to need to execute there. Certifications and those sorts of items they're table stakes, they're critical, they're important to moving forward in the APN, they're important to your success, but they're not enough in and of themselves. It's like that high school diploma. It doesn't mean you actually know how to get in the field and do the job. It means you've completed the prereqs, right? So as you're looking at developing those skills, look at the areas where you need to go deep and where you can get started with those resources. I think the other thing I'd suggest is look at, again, the theme's going to be organizational change here, right? But think about the organizational change within your own organization to enable the change in your technical resources, right? This, for some of them, can be an uncomfortable change. There are no doubt in any large organization, people that are looking at this cloud thing and going, well, I'm an infrastructure person. I do VMware, or I work on mainframe, or I support these Unix servers over here. Does this mean my role's going away? And most emphatically, that answer is no. It means you're going to stop doing boring things and start doing newer, more interesting things further up the stack. But I see a lot of organizations that don't communicate that well, and they don't explain why the business is making this transition and explain to them what's going to be expected of them in the future and how the business is going to help them, right? They need to do this work themselves, but how the business is going to help and support them get there, so they really see the vision for how their career is going to grow and what is going to be expected of them. Partners that do that well, I think, have much more successful at building out those technical teams, because they focus on what the customer really needs, and they focus on taking a conscientious approach to getting their people there, and looking at that deeply, not just kind of focusing on, all right, get through the cert, great, we're ready to go, right?
Okay. You mentioned certifications. I think Brett, you had mentioned it too. How important are they really? If you want to be an APN partner with AWS, on the consulting partner side. To get to the higher levels, you need to have, so there's a requirement that you have certification. But I want to ask each of you, is there practical value in it? And there's different certification tiers. That's the first part of the question. Second part of the question is, what's the best way to get that training? I'll start with Nathan.
All right, so I'll say yes, I think that they're really important. I have them. My team is required to go get them, right? That's part of their onboarding. That's an expectation of them. We have to eat our own dog food on that and demonstrate that to the partners and customers that we ourselves are going through these processes. And they are challenging, but I'll kind of echo what I said before. I see the certifications as table stakes. It's your first 2 years of the degree. It's your history classes and your English classes. It's what you need to get started. I don't think they're enough to say, okay, great, I'm certified. I'm ready to go execute and move workloads. That takes hands-on. So the certifications are a great start. They're important, but they can't be the only thing you do. They're not sufficient to build a successful executing technical team.
I'll add on to that from the business perspective, obviously he's got the technical stuff wrapped up, right? Even from the business perspective, you need training. It's just like learning anything else. Every new tool that you learn, every piece of software, you got to dig in and learn it, right? It's the same thing with AWS. We've just now put out a new exam for the business called the Cloud Practitioner Exam. All of us at AWS are expected to take this class and pass the exam. It's a business exam. It's a business working knowledge of AWS and how it works. Again, this benefits you because as you go in and talk to not only the mission director, the IT director, you're going to end up talking to the procurement person, probably their lawyer, probably the CEO, or the head of the agency. You've got to be able to speak intelligently about the offering that you have. Now, it may be your managed offering, but when you all of a sudden start pitching that it's not going to be on their resident servers, that it's going to be in this thing on the cloud, they're going to have a lot of questions. Basic knowledge, as an example, the Cloud Practitioner Exam, that can get you that basic knowledge that gets you through that business conversation. It makes you relevant. It keeps you successful. Then for the technical folks, all those things. Not only does it get you up the curve in the APN, going registered, standard, advanced, premier, et cetera, because at each time you advance your partnership, more and more the competencies kick in, which of course, as a developer of partners, even if you are not at an advanced level, I want you working on the competency. Again, why? Because you got to differentiate to the agency what it is that you can deliver for the mission, right? As he said, you can't, well, you certainly can try to be all things to all people, but you probably won't do it really well in all the cases. So what is your value add? How do you differentiate yourself in the community, in the agencies, and to really dive deep to get into their mission and resolve their challenges? So I think it's super critical to get them. It's the 101.
Okay.
We regularly have government agencies come to us and say, we're going to move this mission critical workload over to AWS. We need to know that AWS can support you, but we also need to know that our prime contractor is the right prime contractor to pick. And when I first started, we didn't have certifications. We didn't have the APN program. We didn't have these competency levels and things. And they'd ask us, how do I pick that right contractor? And our answers weren't very satisfying to them because we didn't have something we could point to. Today, we can show them what our certifications are and what the competencies are, and they can look at those and they say, okay, I need this partner that has these capabilities, and by these certifications, I have some level of confidence to know that I'm going to award a contract to a company that can take care of my mission critical needs. I think it's very important to have those.
It's also showing up in the shaping of our opportunities. Solicitations. Our capture organization, your capture organizations, your BD people, they're out there. That's, again, differentiating, but shaping the opportunity. We're seeing the RFPs come out on the street now that when they want an AWS solution, they're asking for those certifications. They must have the migration competency, or they must be no less than an advanced consulting partner of AWS. And there are proof points out there on the AWS Partner Finder tool that acknowledge these examples. So the government is paying attention. And again, because they want to ensure that you can do what you say you're doing. This is as much of new technology to them as it is to us. And it's something that gives it a proof point of knowing what they're doing.
It's a good segue into the next question. Because now, okay, I'm imagining it's danconsulting.com. I've built my business. I've got some of my certifications. I'm now at my APN standard level, and I'm going to bid my first deal. Is bidding in the cloud space significantly different than if I were to bid on a regular, what used to be a data center contract or something? What are some of the differences, if any?
The biggest, if they're just reselling AWS, meaning which I would not encourage, because again, this value add needs to kick in. Somebody needs to technically know what they're doing once they get inside that AWS account. You can open up an AWS account, and I hope everyone has in this room, but what's the next step? Because the server doesn't start itself, and it certainly doesn't optimize itself. And that is what the benefit of the cloud really is. Getting to that scalability, flexibility, elasticity, that's where it makes sense. So just so vitally important for those things to happen.
Have you seen, it might go to Brett, what have you seen some partners do well or not do well when you see them bid on something and they want to go for a new opportunity, just in your experience?
A variety of things. And you said, how is it different? And it kind of ties back to the thing that we were talking about earlier on change management. It's important that each partner kind of look at themselves. And when you're making this change to how business used to be very high capex done every couple years to now in the cloud, you're replacing that very high capex with a much smaller OpEx that's spread over time. And that actually changes the way that you're doing business. So one of the things that's important for you is to understand how you can maximize that. When I was early on, I had this company come to me and says, I really want my agency to move to the cloud. And they were explaining what was happening, and I wanted to sign them up and send them over to Jane. And they said, no, we don't want to be a reseller. And I said, well, why are you here? And they said, our agency budget is being cut. And they're going to cut our heads, or professional services. Instead, we want to find savings in the infrastructure layer so we can help them do more exciting things. And I think anytime that you can find creative ways to do more and exciting things moving forward, that is providing new value. The other thing that we see some people making a mistake on is taking an old data center mentality to new world problems. It's fairly easy to look at it and said somebody has something in a data center and I want to now move it to the cloud, to ask the question, well, how much storage do you have? What type of servers do you have? And let's repeat that in the cloud. Well, today there are so many different ways to solve those problems, whether or not you're doing Lambda with serverless or whether or not you're approaching things with RDS from a managed database point of view. And our old logo for AWS, we've now changed it with the smile, but our old logo used to be these these little blocks, like children's blocks. Because we used to tell people that we're giving you the building blocks and it's up to you to build the very best solutions for your customers. And what we found is that those partners that took advantage of the new ways of doing business, the new products and services that get released, they were the ones that were serving their customers the best.
So, we used to give you building blocks, now we give you a smile. What help should our partners expect from AWS? I'll start with any of you.
I'll jump on that one because I kind of skipped it when I did my background. So the solution architecture team exists to enable and be trusted advisors to our customers and partners, right? So we're there to help with the education. Now, a lot of that, we expect you to be educating yourselves, right, and taking advantage of training and the materials that are out there. We're available as we can be to help supplement that. And really, we want to be a trusted advisor. And what I mean by that is we want to be sitting next to you, helping you design the solutions. We're not going to design them for you. If you need somebody to do that, you probably want an integration partner, right? Or you want to work with our professional services teams. What we want to do is get up on the whiteboard with you and talk about how we'd recommend you build this solution and what can provide the most value for your end customers, and what are the right ways to do this efficiently and provide a compelling offering that's going to provide value to your customer that's going to make you successful.
From my perspective, my whole team's job is we actually have a new program. It's not really new. It's kind of we've packaged up all our best practices that we've learned over the 7 years I've been here into the Partner Transformation Program. And it's unique to public sector because it's hard doing business in public sector. We all know that from old school days to today, right, with procurements. It takes you through the 4 enablement models that I spoke about. Can you sell it? Can you architect it, implement it, and support it? We do an assessment of where you are in each of those elements, and maybe you're already checked off on all 4. That's fantastic. If you are, we're going to document all that, make sure we have your battle cards. We want to talk about the market segment you want to go after, you're most interested in, who's your most interested customer, and we're going to help push you out into the sales organization that's most appropriate and ensure that they have eyes on you to help go in to talk to those customers. But where you may have a gap, if you have no intention of filling that gap on your own, we might suggest a teaming partner. Maybe it's for procurement reasons, right? You don't want to prime, you can't prime, or you want to be in a sub-relationship. We're happy to make those recommendations and introductions. Again, then, once that's ready, we can say that all 4 boxes are checked. Again, we go back out to the market. And then for those that really want to have all 4 buckets filled on their own, we're going to help with training, enablement dollars, marketing efforts, really whatever it takes to help you with your commitment to help you fill all 4 of those check boxes. That's what development on my team equals, because we ultimately want to get you out the door into the field with folks like Brett to be successful with the mission.
So the more you engage my team, the more we can help you out. My folks are out meeting with the agencies of the federal government, meeting with the CIO's office years before the procurement hits the street. We're understanding what they are expecting, and we're helping shape these things to go in the direction of a cloud. I encourage you, as you're doing the same, many of the organizations in this room are doing the same thing, meeting years ahead of a procurement. The more we can engage together, the better we can help each other. We can explain to you why they're going in the direction of the cloud, what they're really looking for in those procurements, what they're looking for in those partners, and long range what they're doing. And then don't stop engaging us after you've won it. Because what happens over time is we can help out over time. And what we do is we regularly do things like, we'll do like a well-architected program where somebody has been running something for about a year. We get together with the partner and we sit down with the agency and say, technology's changed in the last year. Here's how you might be able to do things better. And so continue to engage us through that entire life cycle. And that's how we can help you out the most.
How would you recommend someone gets on your radar so they can start working with you? I think that most partners say, hey, if I could go be best friends and have barbecues with Brett every weekend, I'd be happy. What's a good way for someone to do that, to get elevated?
I think it's a multiple things. So, each partner has something unique that they bring to the table. So one of the things that we need to understand is what's good business for you? What is your uniqueness that you're bringing to the table? And then talking to us and my account managers, we can help make those connections. The other thing is that Jane's organization will work with them, and they will be regularly coming to us and saying, we've got this partner who's really good at X, Y, and Z. Do you have an agency at the federal government that's looking for X, Y, and Z? So we do a lot of that type of work together. So it's not just working with my organizations, working with the technical organizations, working with the partner organizations. And then lastly, when you are out talking to the end customers, engage us. Because we will have perspectives on it that we'll be able to share with you, and ultimately we want the government to run their IT more efficiently. So we want to work together with you to make that happen.
Yeah, and as Jane was mentioning, from the partner standpoint, our partner program standpoint, there's lots of resources to help get there. One of the challenges is, well, a lot of that requires a relationship with AWS, and how do I actually get to that point? And that's why Jane has her team and I have my team, and we have essentially partner managers and alliance managers. So the obvious question is, well, how do I get an alliance manager? Well, the first and most direct way is to advance yourself in the APN. It doesn't take anything to sign up for the APN. You got to be able to fill out your email address and click submit, and you're there. And then start down the path of your own. You don't need, and AWS has always really been a self-service type culture, and we expect our partners to be out there wanting to drive this business. And there's a great quote that I got from a friend of mine is don't make me want this more than you want this. You know, you've got to want it, and you've got to dig in and build your competencies and start building your business on your own, because then you'll get on, Jane and I see who are the partners in this area. Hey, look, this one just got a couple of competencies that just hit standard tier. You know what? We need to get one of our PDMs engaged with them because we think they're going to start driving business. So the first thing is going to be built on relationships. And obviously, we're all here right now and get our cards and we can start building your relationships. But the relationships really get solidified when we actually start doing real stuff together. And that's kind of the key to the kingdom on our standpoint, from our standpoint. So next question. So now, the fictitious Dan Consulting, I've won my first contract. Yay, we always throw a big party. You know, Dan won the $1 million contract. From an AWS standpoint, it's great, but we don't start making any money until somebody actually starts doing something and the meter starts spinning, and that's been a big challenge for us. Because a lot of times what happens is someone will win a contract, they'll do some more studies, they'll do some research, do some pre-architecture, do some business planning. 18 months have gone by, and our VP, Teresa Carlson, is like, Dan, what's going on? So our job is to help you figure out how do we accelerate that. And from your perspective, what have you seen partners do well to accelerate that revenue on a contract that they've won? Because you want to start doing business right away, too. Any thoughts on that?
From my perspective, it's small workloads. Get it running so they can see how it works. You know, some folks, government customers, I'll migrate this big, huge application over. Well, you know what? Let's take a smaller one. It's not going to take 20 months to move it. Let's take a smaller one so that I can demonstrate to you that A, I can do it. B, maybe work out the pitfalls in your own organization. You know, maybe he's not really in favor of moving it, but he is. You know, work out the kinks. Do something small first. We can help with POC funding, you know, market funds, things like that to help that. Get them to dip their toe quickly so that we can, okay, yeah, we got this, let's go. Boom, all in, let's go. It's that assessment phase, which, okay, we all need a good assessment phase. I don't want to planning, you got to have the right planning. But even in the planning, do the demonstration. Get them to turn it on, to see how it works so that they mentally get the picture for the difference between the on-premise capabilities and the cloud capabilities.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There is two different things you're trying to work through. And one is that these agencies want the right governance, the right standard operating procedures. They want to make sure they're doing things the correct way. Yet at the same time, we've seen partners and the government kind of spend all their time on that, and after, he said 18 months, I've even seen longer, then I'll get a call from the government and they're saying, why haven't we migrated anything? And what we've done, we at Amazon, we've spent a lot of time looking at this because we've had, you know, a dozen years with Fortune 100 companies, large government agencies, and we've come up with a cloud adoption framework. And what we've realized is that what you need to do is you need to build this governance structure. You need to build these landing zones. And while you're doing that, you need to pick a few small workloads, 3, 5 workloads, and start moving them. Because what happens is success breeds success. And then after you've done that and it's worked out well, we see lots more going. I can't tell you how many times that I've seen partners come and they say, we're really frustrated because we've done this and the revenues are relatively small and we're used to doing these $100 million contracts where you get the $100 million right up front. I cannot tell you how many times we started with something fairly small, and it turns into very large revenues, very large things over time. Because when you're doing this cloud journey, it's a journey, and you've got to start with a crawl to get to a run.
Yeah.
And I'll just jump in for a second there on kind of what you said, right? Is I see a lot of environments where this is a very iterative platform. It's designed for that, right? And we talk about that a lot. Start small, ramp up, fail fast, try things. There are some pieces, especially when you're dealing in the federal space and the defense space, that you need to get right first, like those governance pieces, right? What we kind of call a landing zone from a technical perspective. What that really kind of means is getting the governance in place and a few of the pieces of the technology that are difficult to change later, because there are some areas where it's much better if you can get them right the first time. My advice from a technical side is figure out what those are. There's actually a fairly short list of them. Spend the time getting those right up front, and then, to the same thing everybody else said, pick a couple of small systems and move as fast as you can and iterate and change and try them. Because the list of things that can't be changed later is actually fairly short. So identify those things, nail them down, and then run.
Yeah, it's a good point. It almost goes back to the point you mentioned earlier in that in order to really be competent, you have to have done it. You have to have gotten your hands dirty. And if you wait until you're absolutely ready to go, you'll have wasted all that time that you could have used to get your people ready and build their technical competency. And you start small projects. Each time you're building incrementally and additively the actual skill set. So by the time you are organizationally ready to take on a big project, your people, your technical and your operational folks are there too. So you only do that by starting small. It goes back to your point earlier. And it just goes from the ISV side to my technology partners. They'll come in and say, we want to move this entire solution today. Like, well, do you have any AWS competency? Do you know how to build for cloud? Do you know anything? Have you done any kind of cloud architecture, serverless, all that? Nope. Okay, well, let's start with something smaller first to figure out so you can intelligently plan what your architecture is going to be. And that iteration allows you to be much more agile, and that's the word of the day in defining a really agile developer organization. Kind of speaking of technical stuff. So now looking forward, I'll start with Nathan. What technical competencies or even kind of business needs do you see our customers really value highly or really important right now? Is it machine learning? Is it migration? From your perspective, what do you see in high demand?
You stole two of my answers, and I'll give you a third after that. So migration is going to continue to be, in my view, a major driver for a long, long time. Because this is the public sector, right? We have so many customers that are stuck just doing the bare minimum O&M to keep things alive and to try to keep the fires out on burning platforms. And I think there is a portion of those workloads that until they get out of those situations, we're always going to be looking at rehoming those and moving them as quickly as we can, because they're trying to consolidate data centers, because they're trying to deal with budget cuts and get the money and the funding back that it takes to be innovative. And they're kind of stuck in a corner, right, where they've got to migrate thing A and they want to use those savings to go be innovative somewhere else. So I think that will continue over the long term. Some of the other exciting areas, though, where I think we're seeing a lot of innovation, right? AI/ML is attracting a lot of attention, and we're seeing kind of the curve, right? We're starting to see, in my view, some of the real applications being put into production and really generating value. I think there's a lot of talk about serverless as well. I think that's a really valuable area to focus on, but I'd say don't over-focus on it, right? It's a technique. Don't get so over-focused in a set of techniques that you miss out on helping your customer figure out like the right technologies to solve their problems. There are a lot of problems that serverless can do amazing things on for incredibly, incredibly low cost. It is such a great architecture. But on the other hand, back to my statement earlier, be very thoughtful about what your customer needs and what the right answer for them is. And as much as possible, make your technology choices based on that. A lot of that is going to be what's newest, what's on the cutting edge right now. But sometimes it may not be, and be ready for those moments too.
Let me answer that a little bit from the business side. So for decades, IT organizations have been only trying to solve problems that was limited by what they had in their data center or was limited by their budget. They weren't even trying to solve problems that went beyond that. And then if they were trying to solve problems that were limited by their budget, then they were limited by time because it took time to buy and deploy things. And today, organizations can get best-in-class services, high level, you mentioned machine learning or AI or things like that. And so what's happening today is IT organizations are able to solve many more problems. In fact, I like to say the problems that they can solve now is only limited by their imagination. And so what I'd like is partners that have a very broad imagination and can go to these government agencies and say, I know you never had the budget to do this in the past, but using the cloud, we can solve problems very quickly and easily. And we can do these proof of concepts, sometimes for $100 of AWS spend to do a proof of concept to see if we can tackle a new problem. And when you start doing those and expanding your imagination, all of a sudden you're providing a much greater and different value to your end customer.
And I'm just going to tack onto that, because most of my partners in that first conversation with me is, well, what should I be selling in the cloud? Well, what do you do today, right? It's, to Nathan's point, and to Brett's, I tell my partners, look, get the foundational knowledge, and we have all this foundational training. Understand the imagination that you must have, because Brett's right. It's unlimited. The capacity is almost unlimited. The sky is your diamond, right? Get the foundation. Get your change management in order in your own house, and then what is your customer looking for? Be imaginative. If you don't know how Aurora works or the latest AWS recognition tool or workspaces, we'll get you that knowledge that you need if that's what you figure out that the customer is looking for. It's the foundational core services. Of course, we want you to branch into that, and as a partner development manager, we're going to drive you towards that. But you must be able to get as much as the sexy stuff that your customer thinks they want, they got to understand the EC2, the S3, and then even more importantly, I go to Dan's team all the time and say, my partner has dealt Cisco for decades, right? Well, let's bring in some storage opportunities with Cisco or products like Cisco and bridge that gap. And that partner finds a big success. It's a bridge the gap time before they get all the way in. So we're utilizing the ISVs in a big way to get those legacy partners, slowly out of what they're used to doing, transition with an ISV cloud hybrid model into a full-blown, imagination to use the building blocks of AWS.
Yeah. And I concur with all those things. I think, obviously, from a practical standpoint, an organization can focus their technical resources. Just kidding. I mean, the great thing about this space is we're still at the very bottom of the adoption curve. It's fantastic. As big as cloud is, most people aren't using it. Or most of our customers aren't. And that's a great opportunity for everybody here. That means focusing on the core capabilities. I do think that we're going to see really good near-term opportunity. We already are. Database, obviously. There are some large databases out there that customers are itching to migrate. And we need people to help with that. In the same sense, the things that you can do today, and this is, I would say, and I share and this is, again, I want to measure what people take out of the bite, but getting people to think big enough, because now, like Brett said, you can do amazingly huge things. And I did a presentation a couple weeks ago, and to do it, I did a little research. 2004, one of the largest, if not the largest, most powerful computer in existence. It's 2004. It's not that long ago, despite what my kids tell me. It's only 14 years. Was IBM Bluemix. It did 70 teraflops. Okay, pretty big machine. That was big. We were doing some big stuff there. We just released an instance type in EC2 called a P2 that does 70 teraflops. The price of the Bluemix in 2004 was $13.5 million. The price of the P2 instance is $6.80 per hour. So you think about that, and what you would have needed to do something like that just 10, 15 years ago versus now. I had pocket change to do things that are large scale, huge machine learning and analytics, which changes the game. And many organizations they don't realize that they have this at their disposal. So start thinking bigger that way too. I want to finish with just one kind of comment across the board, and then we'll open for a couple of questions. Just one piece of guidance that you would give to organizations out there looking to either get into or build their practice on AWS.
Go first.
There's multiples, but I think you have to realize that this is a journey both for you and as well as your customers, and spend a little bit of time taking a look at your own organization, how you've done things in the past, and then look about how things could work into the future once you fully engage the cloud. And after you've done that introspection, I think you can be much better at helping your customer through it. And once you understand how you can operate better in the cloud, then you can understand how your customers can operate better in the cloud.
Differentiate your value add.
It's concise. I like it.
Yeah, wow. I was impressed.
I've been practicing
You had
that
the
all
questions
day.
ahead of you.
I would say, from the technical perspective and the perspective of building your capability and building your team, get hands-on in a variety of different ways. Like as your people are training and building their skills on the platform, make sure they have access to accounts, make sure they can try things. This is an environment where it takes experimentation and hands-on experience to be successful. You can't, there is a lot of very good written material and we spend a lot of time in it, but you gotta get hands-on. And I'll tack onto that as you're building up those skills and you're starting on a new platform and you're building things, dog food things, build things internally, build proof of concepts. I'm sure most businesses have we have our own IT concerns, right, as businesses. Look for things internally that your own teams may be able to practice on that are lower risk so that you have confidence that when it's time, when you've won that proposal or won that contract, that when it's time to execute, that they're ready to hit the ground running so that you can bid with confidence and deliver when the time comes.
I have two. One is leverage AWS. Both the resources and the APN. They're really good, actually. They're really good, whether you're trying to build a consulting organization or build a SaaS application. They're good, and it's a good start and good self-service information there. And develop the relationships with us on this side, too. Our job is to help you. Because if we work together, we meet our customers' needs, and that's what our goal is. The second thing that I would recommend is partner together. No organization does all things well, and every organization could benefit from that. Every single day I work with companies that they have one competency and they need to partner with another one that has a different one. I have an ISV who has no idea how to do government contracting. Well, you know what? I got partners on this team that actually all they do is government contracting. They don't have any solutions. Finding partners, using events like this to bridge that network and figuring out how you can leverage others in the community to meet our customers' needs is absolutely critical to success. Okay, I wanted to open up questions from the audience. Anybody have anything? We'll start over there. Do we have mics? Maybe about 5 minutes or so. Or you can just call it out and I'll repeat it. Oh, we got one coming behind you there.
Thank you. How would I have my customers tap more of the information that's available within the Amazon framework? Case in point, moving from fixed costs to variable costs is a changing of paradigms, and how to structure that procurement within government agencies is something that's broader than just simply the cloud adoption or the technical or the CIO team. It's something that gets much more into the procurement, the acquisitions, and the other frames. Yeah. How do I engage more of the capabilities within Amazon to help breed that comfort throughout the enterprise from the purchases that we are already making, transitions that are already underway?
Yeah. Brett, you want to take that one? Or?
A couple different things. You're mentioning it from a few different ways. The predictability of costs, we have a lot of things that we work with, and so our solutions architects can work with you as well as the customer on what would this workload look like in the cloud. I'm always very surprised when you look across all of our agencies, while the cloud has the ability to do massive expansion back and forth and everything, I'm always surprised when I look at all the accounts throughout my space on on how remarkably stable they are. You know, they tend to do something like what the customer expected them to do. And there is always this fear that it's just going to be hugely spiky and do things that they don't expect it. But most customers understand what their workloads are. So what we can do is, it goes back to what I said earlier, engage us. If your customer is a federal customer and they're having those issues, chances are they're already talking to my team too. And what we'd like to do is share with you the information that we've already shared with the government, and so that we can show you not only what we've shared with them, but what their concerns are. We've heard directly from the customer, as well as what you're hearing. Do you have anything to add to that?
And then if you're talking from a capture perspective, or you know, if there's no more time to even shape the deal, our capture organization, we have lots of assets that are online. Actually, you can go out to the How to Buy page, and those assets are located there. Maybe you haven't talked with one of us, or you don't have the opportunity to speak to one of the capture folks. Please utilize those assets out there. They address the fixed price versus utility price. So How to Buy Cloud out there on the Amazon page. Also,
In our white papers.
in our white papers.
Yeah, one of the white papers is top 10 considerations for cloud procurement. I mean, that everybody should walk in and hand to your customers today, so they know how to set it up for you going forward.
And it actually gives working examples of procurements where they've changed that, and how that got to change, what language looks like to get you from one methodology to another. And then, of course, we have the simple monthly calculator where you can demonstrate what something, you know, what we think it's going to cost by utilizing these set of tools. And then the TCO calculator as well. So lots of tools at your right there on the AWS webpage.
I can tell you that the concern is usually, how do I know I'm not going to go above my purchase order? And the reality tends to be that over time we find better ways to optimize. We come up with new services that cost less, and the complaint we more often get from the government is, I didn't spend my entire purchase order.
You got me in trouble. My CEO was mad we didn't spend all our money. So we'll help you with that. Yeah. Question.
Architect point of view, learning by doing. So if employees have the accounts and they're doing, but some of the taking the RDS or Aurora, as these modules come up, features come up, how do we stay up to date? I mean, is there training modules to actually learn by doing?
So there's a number of materials, right? There's material that we release through AWS. I mean, honestly, you want to know what I do and what my team does. The first thing is the day it launches, I read the FAQ and I go turn it on. Honestly, and that's still what I recommend to my team. It's getting harder because we keep launching more services and they're more and more spread out, but that's really the first thing I do is just go read the documentation. All these things launch with deep documentation attached to them, so hit the docs and start turning things on. A lot of people learn well that way. For folks that want things that are a little more guided, right, we've got AWS provided trainings that touch on some of those. Of course, for brand new services, it's a while before they tend to wash down into some of the architecture courses. Some of the specialty courses jump on them a little faster. You've also got a wide variety of resources out there on the internet that I think grab them more quickly and will provide more guided labs. But it's, again, to that theme, it tends to be a very self-service platform. So, you know, on launch day, grab the docs, hit the console, and start playing with the options and see what they do. And I think for a lot of folks, that's the fastest way to learn it and get on top of the new technologies.
Amazon also has a YouTube channel. There's lots of videos out there where, yes, you can go do the 30 hours worth of training, or you can do the 3-minute video just to get a snap to see, is this going to even be a service that my customers are interested in? Maybe, maybe not, and then you can go do the deep dive on all the technical documentation.
And that's a great point is most of these services, right, we tend to, especially the full services, we tend to announce and launch them at summits and at events like this one and events like reInvent. Almost always there are a couple of deep dive sessions specifically on the service that launched on launch day available to people who want to answer those questions. So accessing those YouTube videos, we typically make them available on YouTube, is a great way to get the 30-minute crash course of what the SA expert on the service thought you needed to know as a jump off point.
The other thing that kind of surprised me when I first started with Amazon is just about everything your folks have access to, they have access to.
Right.
And so when you start talking about this documentation and everything, his folks are reading stuff and getting up to speed on our public website. So you have access to all these information.
I don't. That's 100% true. Like,
Yep.
there's not a a magical training portal. Like, the content is basically the same content, and we've, of course, like every company, have our corporate systems we use to assign that to people and to manage it. But the reality is, for the most part, the content's exactly the same. We go to the same places you can go to go get smart on those services.
Next question over here.
Yeah, on a sales perspective, do you have contract vehicles that your partners can take advantage of? And two, do you also provide technical assistance on responding to RFPs, specifically on the cloud portion of it?
So from the capture organization, generally, if it's a capture that they're working on, or maybe the partner brings it to our attention, we will put together a partner package that addresses the AWS portions of that solicitation. It will be the same partner package that goes out to everybody that wants to receive it. If you need additional technical help, we're happy to engage Nathan's team to make that happen. Again, he doesn't architect it for you, but he's happy to sit there and go through the whiteboard of, yep, does that work? No, it doesn't work, to help you out with that. And to answer are there contracts that you can take advantage of? Certainly there are contracts out there that have AWS, folks can buy AWS from it. We don't necessarily have a contract that was awarded to us and then we hitch the partners to it. Partners are generally awarded the contract that they can flow their AWS business through. Does that answer?
You mentioned about
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
you mentioned about partner transformation program. Can an ISV participate in it? If so, can you please elaborate a little? Thank you.
Yes, the PTP. So a Partner Transformation Program is a formal structured program that we have that helps bring our partners up to speed in a programmatic way. The answer is yes. ISV partners can get engaged in that, and we can certainly help you with that. The one thing I can say, just from a self-improvement standpoint, there's probably more in the PTP for our consulting organizations, but there's still plenty for an ISV, and then my team is really responsible for helping get you even further down the road. Absolutely. Other questions? Missing anything? Okay, well, fantastic. Thank you all very much. Hope it was a great conference, and look forward to seeing you at the reception.